Hi, I am Tavish Carduff.
I'm Quan, Tracy Cherry.
We are here for Ourrawmaterial. It is Emotion Week. A great time to find your center.
Yes. Are there emotions that make you feel uncomfortable? Leave that in the comment section. Ourrawmaterial.com, www.ourrawmaterial.com, Instagram, Ourrawmaterial, and YouTube channel is also Ourrawmaterial.
We'll be right back. Emotion is something I think that is getting kind of its day right now. It's getting its time, because for at least in my childhood, we weren't really allowed to have emotions as kids. And then my kids' generation started to be able to have emotion, and so we're working emotion into our body or out of our body. Emotion.
Yes.
It affects how we act and what we do and how we think in so many ways. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's having its day. And mental health is a really focal place right now. We're really seeing the unraveling of our mental state.
Yes.
And this notion that we should have been holding it all together and acting like an adult and not letting things bother us, rather than when an emotion comes up, identify it, feel it, let it work through your body, and have it be a natural part of breathing and just a natural thing that we go through. The experience of sadness lets us empathize with someone else when they're having sadness, instead of, get over that shit. Come on.
Yep.
Let's go have a beer. But mental health, no joke, is the body's reaction to what we haven't dealt with in our bodies. And we have, trauma and things that have happened, and if we don't have a skill set to deal with them or a way to objectively look at the things that have happened, feel the emotion of what has happened as experience, and then move on with it in that kind of a way, our mental health suffers. Mm-hmm. And how we get from there to there is challenging, and we've got all sorts of clinical ways to go about doing that, but the reality is just untangling your own
body, feelings, barometer.
Progressive ways in mental health really are going to have so much to do with breath and with the management of our own mental state and our physical state, and getting those two to connect with each other. And I think the pandemic itself has brought us into an emotional, I don't want to say crisis. I want to say transformation. Okay. It can feel like a crisis, but it really is a changing of the guard, a way to switch it up so that we can identify and feel emotions. We can clear our bodies. We are all forced into them in a way that we've never been before, paying attention to what we're doing in ways that we frankly never have. And it's given us the pause that you talk about a lot, to take in what's around us, to take in what's important, to assess our values, to get ourselves centered within those 12 pillars, whether we know we're doing it or not.
Because it can be something as simple as, like today, I purposely stayed in the car to listen to another song, and I consciously breathed, and as I was listening to the song, and it made me feel better. Yeah, but it's little things that you start to pay attention to, and breathing, because we do 15,000, 20,000 a day breaths or something crazy, something like that.
I don't even know.
But whatever it is, it's important to understand that something we do so frequently, and how it connects to our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, and if we just pay attention to that, we can breathe through some really gnarly feelings and emotions. So, but then we don't even want to call them gnarly. We just want to.
I mean, gnarly is good.
You like gnarly?
They're gnarled. They're tangled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take some extra breathing. It's going to be some paying attention and really opening up those spots that, like, oh wow, I didn't even know that tension was there, and breathing into it. I found a spot in my arm the other day. That I started kind of touching it and paying attention to where my thoughts were as I was touching it. And it's some family stuff. You know, in my right arm, which I'm right-handed, there's a little tiny wound that is sensitive. You know, not wound. There's a tension there, and there's a sensitivity, and I can tell now it has to do with my family. You know, it has, and there's just a little, and when I think about my family, you know, we have so many emotions, and we like to think about the good ones, but there's a little bit of sadness in one area of my family life, and that is, I think, that's directly connected to. So now, if I put my finger on it a couple times a day and just kind of run it along there, it's not as sore, and it doesn't change what's happening in the situation, but it does change my perspective on it, and it doesn't pull me into anger or stress or anxiety or fear or any of those things, loss. It makes me do what I intend to do in the situation, which is hold space and be loving and be open because I can.
Being able to identify what I sometimes call the 31 flavors of ice cream, also known as our feelings. It's not a preschool childish game. As a matter of fact, I'd make the other argument and say not attempting to get to the roots of your feelings and emotions is more in denial and childish than those who confront those things that make you uncomfortable. You know, it makes you more authentic if you're saying, hey, this is the hard stuff that I'm still dealing with, that I'm still detangling from. And
what do you say to the people who can't acknowledge that there are those things?
Then you just live your own truth. That's where you radiate what you know to be true for yourself, and you don't push it onto others and say, oh, you must do this, because that really goes against one of the whole intentions or purposes of being whole, is that if we're operating every moment as working for our evolution and growth and it's perfect, then you'll get to your moments however you get to your moments.
And that's so hard when our emotions get stirred up.
Exactly.
When we're mad, it is very, very hard to give somebody else a pass.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know. But when you can do it, man, it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool to offer that space, and it feels good afterwards. And when you notice that you could have escalated a situation, you could have heightened the emotion, and you didn't, that's an emotion that feeds the self. That's a nurturing within the self thing that until you do it, you don't realize how good that feels. And it feels a lot better than making your sarcastic point in the moment to heighten the argument.
And it has a lot to do with, are you interested in being right, or are you interested in being heard? And the more you accept yourself, hey, and this is not something I particularly have mastered, the more you can allow and accept others as where they are. You know?
Because it's so subjective. I mean, emotion itself plays a part in how we think about everything all day long. So when we deny our emotion, then we're denying ourselves the lens to see the way things look from all different angles. You know, like the light coming into your house in the kitchen isn't going to look the same in the morning as it looks in the afternoon. It's all colored by the light, and our emotion is all colored by, you know, our experience, how it goes in a day. You might think something's hilarious one day, and the next day it really makes us mad. So monitoring our own level of trigger, our own, you know, where we are, helps us just, you know, even if it's a bad spot, just helps us be objectively aware of what we're bringing. If somebody says, hey, I'm just really in a bad mood, you know, maybe that doesn't mean you have to go put your head under the covers. Maybe someone can sit next to you and you can watch television while somebody's in a bad mood. I mean, it doesn't have to end the day, and it doesn't have to make everything shift to separation.
Yes, and that's where I think that, to use the metaphor of light and dark, the darker emotions, the darker moods, the ones that bring you down, right? There is much of a part of understanding who you are as the ones that are more joyous and euphoric and playful and light. When you talk about the different lights during the day and seasonal affection disorder and people who don't get enough light in the northern climates, I mean, that is real. It's important to honor that spectrum of light and dark and the mixture and having multiple feelings at once. I'm fond of saying
that's the big one.
I'm not a one-note samba. It's like emotions really can be like, an orchestra. Sometimes you got the oboes going off, and sometimes you got the violins and the cellos, and other times you're just a bunch of drums. And they can all be playing, right? But it's about, I think, finding the equilibrium between the light and the dark, or to keep the musical metaphor going. How do all of these emotions play together?
Yeah, listen to each one of them.
Yeah.
Listen to each one of them and honor the fact that you feel happy, mad, and sad all at the same time about the same thing. We can, especially like around death and somebody who's sick, or somebody who's, we feel the loss, we feel the grief, we're happy for them that they've are out of pain. There are so many feelings that we have all at once, and it's overwhelming because it's feelings all at once. And the more that we learn to sit with a whole bunch of feelings all at once without needing to act or fix the ones that we don't like, that's some space where we start to get a groove in handling our mind body and using the body as a meditative instrument, the body as a means to filter, clear, hold, and accept the loss and the love and the pain and the sadness and the joy all together, and let it play and be able to call those things up when we need them and want them.
Yeah, tears of joy, bittersweet, those mixture of what we don't tend to think about, but there is that blend that happens.
We've objectified feelings and emotions a little bit by saying like it's something you can catch. I caught feelings. Or this is bringing in all the feels. Well, I mean, instead of just calling it all the feels, like what are they all? Like identify them. Give them all the space, so that you're not either all in or all out. It's not something that you're catching or putting away from you. Because any of those metaphors make feelings as something that are outside of you. Or that we can get them outside of them, or that we can overcome them. The healthy way around and with and through feelings is to let them become part of us, and let them become part of us with the understanding that it's a gained experience, whatever it is. So the gaining of experience itself is joyful. The sad experiences are sad, but look around, every single person is going through a sad experience, and that's not to minimize yours. That's to say, we've all held periods of sadness, so honor yours.
And how does that make us more connected?
Yes.
More empathic, more compassionate. You were talking about toxic positivity. What?
Article I read about a book, and I'm terrible, I don't know who the author is, but she wrote a book called Toxic Positivity. And
Positivity.
I haven't read the book, but the point is very ORM. We don't want to look at only what's positive. I mean, of course, the positive things help fuel us to the next experience, and the whole of everything that we go through is incredibly valid. So when someone's always asking you to bright side everything, it's a perspective shift, sure. We want to look at several perspectives, but we want to honor the way that we feel. So if we feel a certain way about a thing, we need to let ourselves feel it. It's through the awareness of our feelings that we learn to work with them. Mm-hmm. So we spend so much time running from them that we're not, actually opening up the door and look at them. If you look at the monster in the closet, it's not so scary. But if you never open the door and actually look, it's incredibly scary in there. That simplifies it a little bit, but it's true. It's these emotions are powerful and they're incredible. And the fact that our bodies can absorb them, be gutted with them, the whole body responds to feelings. And if we don't let our brain have part of that experience, now we've disassociated our mind and body. And we've done that as a species so often that we are detached from this mind-body process that actually works together if we clear ourselves out of the way enough to let it. So our emotions really are the key to just, making it fun, making it
authentic,
authentic, making the changes happen, moving us along with time.
What I just saw was they're like the trunk of the tree, where you have the foliage that would be, our intellect and our beautiful way in which we can construct art and music and poetry and all these things that everyone loves on some level, subjectively loving different things, but loving it. And then we have the trunk, the connection with the feelings, and then these roots that give us this sturdiness, this ability to withstand, if we're going to use the tree metaphor, when we get these floods, that the tree is just not uprooted with a lot of feeling coming at you. It is, you're able to kind of say, no, I got this. But I don't have it in a way that it means you don't have to look at your stuff. I got my responsibility to these feelings. And the more you feel the oneness, the interconnected rootedness, and recognizing the synchronicities that happen to you when the ego's gone, or the ego's not running everything, then they just keep proliferating. They keep growing. Yep. Quality and quantity.
True story.
Yeah.
So I was going to just ask as we close it out, we've been having these conversations for a while with just open emotion. We call each other and say whatever weird things we're feeling, insecurities and all that stuff that you don't usually share with people. How's it gone for you to be objective like that? Like what's it done to how you feel in the world?
Superlative would be the word that comes to mind, in the sense that there is this heightened and deepened. So it's that all-inclusive, but it's the form of accepting what it is that I'm feeling and realize that I'm the sole arbiter of that. No one else is. And so it's helped in, don't get me wrong, I still go into low cotton, as my grandfather would say. But I don't stay there as long. I just don't. What about yourself?
I would say that the same thing. I don't stay there as long. There's an emanating joy underneath grief, underneath sadness, underneath everything, just because this experience is so alive and ongoing and big. Like I wake up in the morning with just confirmation of the stuff that I already know and my day and I just trusting those spaces to carry me through the day and to let the emotions happen and to be willing to just admit, like weird little things that I feel that I would just have normally shoved in my body somewhere and never thought about again. I say them out loud and I breathe through them, or I don't even have to do that. You just breathe or you just laugh and now it's not stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm working on clearing out a lot of old stuff, but the new stuff is kind of passing right through.
True that.
I like it a lot.
I would agree.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week for listening.